What's up, everybody? Over the past couple of years, I've had a lot of requests to do a new game room tour or some sort of game collection update video, and as much as I would really like to do a video like that, I can't. Unfortunately, about a year and a half ago, my game room outgrew itself, or my game collection outgrew the game room, and I had to start packing a lot of it away in containers and turning it into a storage room, and then even since then, the storage room has outgrown itself, and now the games have taken over my house. So until I move out and have a bigger place to live and spread everything out, I won't have a functioning game room. So that's sort of why I decided to do a video like this, is you can pretend that you're seeing all the games in my collection, all like the Sonics and Marios and the stuff that's really common, but I'm going to highlight and show you the rare, harder to find, more unique items, and sort of give you my personal story of how I came across them, how much I paid for them, sort of giving you some information, and not just, hey, I have this, and hey, I have this. So hopefully you'll find it entertaining, and if you do, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below. Let me know, in the past year or so, what are some of the more unique, harder to find, expensive games that you've added to your collection, and maybe tell me, how you came across them, not just, I have it, but maybe you found it at a garage sale, or picked it up for a really good price, or got it in a trade, something like that. That's what I'm going to do right now. Now the first games I'm going to highlight, I pulled together about 10 or 11, and they're going to be on multiple different consoles, so this is not just all Nintendo. It just happens to be the first two I'm going to show you are Nintendo. And they are a complete box copy of Zombie Nation and Panic Restaurant. These are probably the two most valuable NES boxed games that I have. I got these actually off of eBay for a good deal. I know that sounds crazy, but about a year and a half ago or so, I was looking for a copy of Panic Restaurant. I already owned Zombie Nation, and I was searching online, and I happened to see someone that had a complete in-box copy of Panic Restaurant with Zombie Nation. And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't necessarily going for a complete in-box copy, but the price that they had, the starting bid, was really low, and I think it only had a day or so left, and I was like, you know what, let me take a shot at it. Maybe it'll go for, a fairly low amount. And I sent the guy a message because I always try to get more information on what I'm buying, especially online. So I said, can you tell me a little bit more about the condition, that kind of stuff. And he said that he had a couple copies of the games, I believe, but he would send me the best copy of Panic Restaurant of the game he had with the box if I won the auction. And I was like, okay, that sounds good to me. He was a reputable seller. He had great feedback. He sold a lot of harder to find games, so it wasn't like, oh, I have a stockpile of rare games or anything. And I made them all myself. So I ended up winning the auction. I do not remember the exact price. I want to say it was in the $400-ish range, which was even great by a year and a half ago standards for these two games. Nowadays, this by itself, complete in box, I'd say about $600 is a pretty fair average on eBay, obviously. Zombie Nation, $300 or so. So to get these for well under half of what they're going for now, and that was, like I said, only a year and a half ago. Prices are crazy these days, but I feel that was a pretty damn good deal. And since I already had Zombie Nation, a copy of it, a card-only copy, I ended up trading that one off, I believe. No, actually, I think I ended up actually selling that off a little bit later, so I was able to get some of my money back. I recouped a little bit of what I spent on it, so I probably actually only spent about $300 or so for these two complete in the box. One of my favorite systems to collect for these days is the TurboGrafx. Actually, both the TurboGrafx 16 and the Turbo Duo or the Super CD games. And this is my newest pickup for that collection. It is Beyond Shadowgate. Now, this game, to call it rare, yes, of course it's rare because anything TurboGrafx is hard to come by. I've been garage selling for many years, and I have yet to come across any TurboGrafx games, systems, accessories at a garage sale. I found damn Philips CDI stuff at a garage sale, and I still haven't found Turbo stuff. So, yeah, it's rare, but this game seems to always be up on eBay, for sale. There always seem to be at least a couple copies. Sometimes you'll have people asking a buy it now price of like $600-700 or more, and they usually don't sell for that. The average going price, at least more currently is probably in like that $300 to $500 price range. It comes with a poster inside, which I'm not going to unfold, but it comes with a poster which can up the value if it's in there or not. And it is in like a double disc jewel case, so if that's in really nice condition and not cracked, that would also be a plus. But like I said, is it rare? Maybe there should be two different types of rare categories. Rare for the real world, or finding it, out in the wild, or rare on eBay. I definitely would not call this one rare on eBay, but very rare for, coming across out at a game shop or a flea market or anything like that. The Shadowgate series, there are different games on multiple different platforms. There's on the NES and the Game Boy, and then obviously for the TurboGrafx. The coolest feature about this game for sure has to be the death scenes. And even on the back, you might be able to make out, there's only two pictures, and one of the pictures is actually of the character being eaten by like a giant piranha plant. So even the developers knew, like, hey, this is like the coolest thing in this game, is to watch the dude just die in horrible ways. Let's jump forward to a more recent generation in gaming, and that would be a game for the Nintendo DS. It is Super Robot Tyson OG Saga Endless Frontier, a long-ass title. This was put out by Atlas. Now, Atlas, especially a few years ago, were putting out tons of RPGs for like the DS and even the 3DS system that came with like a soundtrack CD, among possibly other things, and you didn't have to pay extra for it. Basically, you just purchased the game right when it launched, and the launch copies came with the bonus content like this one did. This is in an outer box that houses both the soundtrack CD and then the actual original case with the game inside. That has made quite a few of these like bonus editions worth more money if they're complete, obviously. This game is one of the more expensive DS titles nowadays to find, even pre-owned. A used, like, opened copy, a complete one like this, can go anywhere from $50 to $100, just depending how nice the condition is and if the person put it up for buy it now or whatever. But the type of game it is, it's a RPG, like I mentioned, turn-based, and you play a dude that has quite the crew of women. In fact, on the back it says, you're an amateur ladies' man. There's plenty to uncover with your crew of women, were-women, machine women, and demon women. So lots and lots of women, and they're not wearing a lot of clothes in this game, but this series, the Robot Tyson series, there were a couple games that came out in the Game Boy Advance in America, and I do believe that in Japan there were other games that also released, but that never made it to this shore. So for a DS game to pretty much double in price from what it originally was, like, I think a lot of times people don't remember or realize that handheld games for DS, PSP, Game Boy, whatever, when they originally released, most of them were like 30 to 40 bucks. So to even have the game hold its value at that price as a used copy is pretty amazing, because most games don't do that, but to double in price for like an open used version is pretty bizarre and doesn't happen very often. Card only you can get for 20 bucks or so, maybe even a little cheaper, a little bit more. But if you want like the full collector's sort of edition here, like I said, it can go anywhere between about 50 to 100 bucks. Some of the games I picked to show you in this video have like an interesting story of how I got them. Well, the story of how I got this game in particular wasn't that interesting, but it led to a lot of other games that I got, so that was kind of cool. This is Aero Fighters on the SNES, a very hard to come by, now incredibly expensive. In fact, when I just looked up to see how much this was going for, I was pretty blown away, because I'm not showing you this video or anything to say, like, look, I have a bunch of expensive games. I've had a lot of these games for years, and while I still paid a good amount for them years ago, it's still amazing to see how much they're going for these days. I would not be able to go out and buy a lot of these at the price that they're going for right now. So definitely not bragging in any sense, just sort of sharing my stories of how I ended up coming across or getting these very hard to come by or very expensive games. Now, granted, with that in mind, I still paid 200 bucks for this. I remember exactly how much I paid, because she was originally asking like $280. At that time, that was not the average going price. It was much closer to about 200 bucks. In fact, quite a few had sold right there. And I was like, you know what? I'll offer $200 because that's what it's going for. And she said, you know what? Okay, that's fine. So I ended up buying it at that price. And then she said that she had quite a few other Super Nintendo games. In fact, she was selling her entire Super Nintendo collection, and she wanted to know if I was interested in any others. We actually ended up exchanging phone numbers. We talked on the phone a few times, and at first she gave me this long list. I picked out all the ones I was interested in that I didn't have for my collection, and I said, how much would this be? And she quoted me the exact going rate individual for every item, even though I picked out like 20 games, 18 games, something like that. And I was like, well, if I'm going to buy that many all at once, and we're just doing straight through like a PayPal deal and not having to worry about eBay fees, I'd like a little bit more of a discount. So we were able to, like I said, talk over the phone, work down a price, and I ended up getting each game for, let's just say, 20% lower or whatever than the average eBay price, roughly. And the fact that it was all shipped, in one box for like $10 or something was, a good deal, so I didn't have to pay shipping on 18 different games. A lot of the ones I got were really bizarre titles, like the Bronchiosaurus, like the asthma game, just interesting things like that. SWAT Cats was another one of them. But like I sort of said earlier in this clip, when I just looked up to see how much Aero Fighters was going for, I couldn't believe that it was going between $400 and $500 now. That's over double. And this one I didn't get that incredibly long ago. It's been a couple years now, but still I didn't think it would over double in price. But that just seems to be the way a lot of games are going. And for how, I think while I'm doing this video, the time of year I'm doing it, it's also tax return season, so maybe people are just like, I have extra money that came from somewhere, I guess I gotta blow it real quick. So there's a good chance this might drop back down in price, and a lot of the other games that are going for insane amounts at this particular time might go back down a little bit. This next one is the only game I'm showing you in this video that I got from a garage sale, and that is a copy of Donkey Kong Country in the box. So rare! No, this is a sealed copy of Donkey Kong Country, the original printing of it. And this I did get at a garage sale. I've told this story in at least a couple different garage sale videos, but it is one of my best garage sale finds ever. I originally came across it at a garage sale. The people were asking, I think like $1,000 was the exact price they wanted. I was blown away. I'm like, what do you mean? It was the only game they had at the wholesale, and they said they had looked up online. Apparently one sold for like $1,000, and there was no talking them down on it, so I walked away. And I had actually gone home and looked up, and the average price was around, at that time, I think it was about $250 or so, somewhere around there. And there was one that actually sold or ended at like $1,000. Pretty sure it was a complete bullshit auction because it had like 300 bids or something. And like I said, all the other ones were, it wasn't even a VGA graded one. It was just a regular sealed copy that someone was selling. So months and months later, I happened to be back at the same garage sale. They still had it, and I was able to talk them way down from their original $1,000 price, because they basically said, we're never going to put it on eBay. They even said they hadn't even ever created an eBay account to even sell on. So I ended up getting it for $50, quite a good discount from the original price. Like I said, one of the best garage sale finds I've ever had. Still has the hang tag on it. It is H-Scene, kind of tell on the back, so it's not like a ghetto reseal or something. And surprisingly, it was in really nice shape for it being the only game they had. The box has a couple small dings on the back top parts of it, but besides that, it's in really good condition. The first Sega game I'm showing you guys in this video is Burning Rangers on the Sega Saturn. Now this was created by Yuji Naka, the creator of Sonic and the Knight series. A while back, a couple years ago or so, I did two videos. One that was my Sega Saturn collection and one for my Sega CD. And at that time I had just finished getting the games that I wanted. I had a little checklist for both systems, and I got all the games in those checklists, so I decided to show the games in both those collections. Now, a lot of people commented, you don't have a copy of Burning Rangers in your Saturn collection, and they also said you don't have a copy of Snatcher in your Sega CD collection. Now, at that time, neither of those games were really on my radar of what I was really wanting to get to actually play, because I'm not a completist collector. I only buy games that I'm interested in, that I actually want to play, not just to take up space on a shelf, or in this case, right now in my house, in bins. But I ended up, I was like, you know what? Maybe if I come across it for cheap or something like that, I'll pick up a copy of Burning Rangers. a few months after that, right before I was about to go out on a tour, I ended up buying a collection from somebody. It had a mixture of Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Saturn, CD, and a few other random games for different consoles. But in that collection happened to be a copy of Burning Rangers, and there also happened to be a copy of Snatcher for the Sega CD. So I ended up getting them. It was a big collection purchase, so I spent a lot of money, but after it broke down to what I didn't keep out of it and the individual price I ended up paying sort of for everything, they were pretty cheap. I don't remember exactly, but I want to say nowhere near to what they were selling for at that time. So I hung on to both Burning Rangers and Snatcher. Now, the reason why they didn't really fit my gameplay style, at least until I finally played them, was this is essentially a firefighting game. It is a futuristic firefighting game. You get to, like, fly around and rocket through flames, and you can put out these, like, concussion blasts to take out, the fire. But in essence, you're putting out fires and rescuing people from burning buildings. But it is actually a lot of fun. It is cool, a very unique take on, a rescue mechanic, I guess. And then Snatcher, the really heavy story-based games, full motion video ones, or like even incredibly heavy point-and-click adventures are not my go-to, genre, but Snatcher has such a cool story, and it is made by one of the most amazing game developers of all time, so I ended up giving that one a chance, and I liked it and hung on to that one, so interesting how I actually came about them and put them in my collection, getting them in a big lot like that, because I had no plans on getting them in the first place, but I'm glad I did, because I ended up enjoying both of them. Ninja Gaiden Shadow is one of the more obscure games in the Ninja Gaiden franchise. I actually didn't even know this existed until like around 7 years ago. None of my friends had it as a kid. I never saw it in stores, so when I realized that there was a Ninja Gaiden game that I didn't own, I was like, oh my god, so I went out looking for it, and I ended up getting this complete in-box copy for just a little more than what the cart was going for at that time. Nowadays, I think the cart is going for around like $15 to $30, depending on condition. But a complete in-box copy, it's pretty hard to find. And when I was just checking, I really couldn't find an average price because there was one that had sold for like $150 and then one that had gone for like $50 or $60. So an average maybe like $75, $80, who knows. A lot of the older cardboard box games for multiple different systems are more expensive, obviously, if you have the box and manual for them. Because a lot of times people didn't keep them, they threw them away. That's even more so for like the Game Boy games or for handheld ones, because people took their Game Boy games, stuck them in like a pouch, carrying case, their pocket, whatever, and they chucked the box. There really was no need. You're not going to stick this in your pocket and carry it around. So a lot of them are, card only, maybe $10 or $20 for an obscure or rare one. But to have the box and manual can quadruple the price or even more sometimes, because it's just that few that actually have been held on to over the years, especially in nice condition. This one's in pretty damn solid condition. The last game I have to show you is another Sega title, and this is one I actually got fairly recently. It is Days Before Christmas on the Mega Drive, and this came from New Zealand. A guy named Shane contacted me saying that he was selling off some of his stuff, and he was needing the money for his upcoming wedding. And he had a copy of this, and this is a game that was like not even on my want list because it's very expensive. It's about a $500 plus game on the eBays, and I was like, I'm never going to come across it, here in the States at a garage sale or anything. So I just didn't even have it in my mind, and when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, a complete copy of it and in really good condition. He ended up, I don't want to say the price that I actually ended up paying for it, but it ended up being close to half of what like sort of the average price it was going for at the time when I got it. So I was very happy to get it. You play as Santa Claus, and he can get a little crazy. But a very interesting title. There's not a lot of games based off of Santa, or for Christmas for that matter. If they are based off of Christmas, it's just like a secondary thing. It's not like the actual game is based after Christmas. So my friend Jeremy was pretty jealous when I got this because Christmas is like his favorite thing in the whole damn world. But again, thank you very much, Shane. And this also leads me to talk a little bit about my PAL collection. I do not collect Japanese games. If I did, I would have games in my house up above my head. So there's no way I could get into collecting Japanese games, but I am interested, and I do collect PAL games that never released here in the United States. Like this one, like Days Before Christmas. I actually have a pretty decent collection now of PAL titles. Lots on the PS2, some on the PlayStation 1. A few on like Sega systems like Sega Saturn and the Mega Drive. But not a whole lot. Most of them seem to be like PlayStation oriented. I really got into collecting PAL titles while I was on tour over in Europe. The first time over there, I was trying to do a little bit of game hunting, obviously not coming across North American titles in European countries. So I only picked up a couple PAL games that I knew that had never come out here. But it wasn't until the second and third times over there that I had a nice compiled list. I knew what I was looking for, and I even bought like a PAL PS2, came home with a bunch of games. So now I am a pretty hardcore PAL video game collector, I guess. I guess that's sort of the end of this video. Now I do want to wrap it up by giving a few tips or hints to how to come across some of these harder to find games these days without having to pay the full, eBay prices for them. One way, the biggest way for me, is to garage sale. Go out, garage sale, ask at every garage sale if they have video games. I have found pretty hard to find games, rare titles, sealed things at garage sales, so it does work. Some areas are going to be harder to garage sale hunt in. Obviously, in other countries don't even have garage sales, but for me, where I live, that's the easiest way to come across games. And even if you don't find the rare games, if you find common things like Pokemon, Mario, Zelda, whatever, you can use those as trade bait, or you can sell those and put that money towards then getting the harder to find games you want for your collection. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if, like I said before, give a thumbs up down below, leave a comment about whatever, some of the rare games you have, where you found them, and I really appreciate talking with you guys and doing videos for you. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and if you did, let me know, and maybe I will do another one of these in 2015, maybe like a part 2. This video is going to go on the playlist for my rare games I own, so check out that playlist also. Like I said, those videos are from like almost 2 years to 3 years ago, or even more. So thank you all, love you, peace.